serial killer-obsessed woman has been jailed for life with a minimum term of 23 years for stabbing her on-off boyfriend to death. Join us as we dive into the details of this gruesome murder. This is the story of a true crime fan turned killer. Let's begin, shall we? What happened? Shay Groves slit her boyfriend Frankie Fitzgerald's throat before plunging the blade into his chest 17 times at her home in Havant, Hampshire, in July 2022. True crime fan Shay Groves, who had framed pictures of notorious murderers such as Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer on her bedroom wall, and who at nights would binge-watch true crime documentaries and reread her collected books about gangsters, including the notorious prisoner Charles Bronson, was alleged to have launched a passionate attack on sleeping Frankie Fitzgerald. The court was told the mother of one owned 4 decorative knives, with depictions of film villains Chucky, Jigsaw, and Pennywise on them, which she and Mr. Fitzgerald used for knife play in the bedroom. It is alleged that Groves was obsessed with Mr. Fitzgerald's performance in the bedroom, with the couple's sex life involving bondage, dominance, submission, and masochism. The 27-year-old denied murdering the young father of one by stabbing him in a crime of passion at her home. The court has previously heard an obsessed Groves made a false alibi for herself, inspired by tips from true crime documentaries to avoid getting caught after her crime of passion. In January 2023, at Winchester Crown Court, Hants jurors heard that after the killing, Groves video-called friend Vicky Bytup, who was horrified to see his body with an enormous knife wound. The court heard Groves earlier sent a message to Ms. Bytup at 5 a.m. on July 17th last year to create a false alibi, where she said Mr. Fitzgerald had left her home. In Ms. Bytup's interview with police, which was played to the court, she said, "The first message from Shay said she had had an argument with Frankie and he'd stormed out." She revealed that a short time after reading the message, at 7 a.m., she got a phone call from Groves, who was giggling away and was having a very normal conversation, asking how my weekend was. The court heard it was then that Ms. Bytup heard Groves' friend, Lauren White, say, "Are you going to tell her?" Groves proceeded to video call Ms. Bytup, who said, Groves said to me, "It's really big. You've got to promise not to tell anyone." That's when she went upstairs, went into her room, pointed the camera at Mr. Fitzgerald and said, "I've done him." Jurors heard Miss Bytup, who couldn't believe it was real, ask the pair if they were having me on, to which Groves went back up to her bedroom to show her Mr. Fitzgerald's body, wrapped in a duvet and lying on bin bags, twice more. At one point during the call, when Miss Bytup raised her voice, Groves told her, "Shh, the kids are in the house." Miss Bytup continued, "Groves got really close to the wound. I don't think I had really grasped what happened earlier. The gash was so deep, it was enormous." In response to Groves's calmly delivered explanation about what had happened, that she had gone through his phone and seen he was messaging a teenage girl, Miss Bytup said, "While he was asleep, she put the dagger through his neck, and that's when he woke. He was asleep. She wasn't even in danger. I could understand if he was attacking her. She told me he was asleep and he couldn't even fight back." Jurors heard from Miss Bytup that Groves had 4 decorative knives hanging on the wall for her and Mr. Fitzgerald, as both of them were into knife play when it came to intercourse. The 4 knives had depictions of Chucky, Jigsaw, and Pennywise on them and hung near 2 axes, all of which were easily accessible to anyone. Ms. Bytup told the court Groves had watched enough murder documentaries to know her plan to bury Mr. Fitzgerald's body in the back garden wouldn't work. Such was her interest in murderers. Groves had framed portraits of notorious serial killers, including Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer, according to Ms. Bytup. Jurors heard from Ms. Bytup that Groves was also known to carry a knife with her for safety when walking alone in the evenings. At the end of the call, Ms. Bytup said Groves's last words were, "We're still friends, aren't we?" The court has a pathologist's report explaining Mr. Fitzgerald was stabbed 17 times to the front of the chest, twice to other chest areas, and 3 times to the neck, resulting in his death after multiple perforations of heart and lungs and catastrophic blood loss. Footage from officers who arrived at the scene was also played to the court, who reported an incredibly strong smell of bleach in the bedroom. Groves continued to deny the murder, claiming she acted in self-defense. Finally, in Feb, Shay Groves was convicted at Winchester Crown Court of slitting the throat of Frankie Fitzgerald before stabbing him 17 times in the chest after trying to portray herself as his victim. She is jailed for a minimum of 23 years. But the story doesn't end here. More revelations. Former school friends of weirdo killer Shay Groves have reflected on her fetish for true crime, masochism, and BDSM as she begins her life sentence for murder. The mother of one who wore a satanic jacket and smiled as she was sentenced for the brutal killing of her lover, Frankie Fitzgerald, 25, has doomed herself to a life of isolation while her young child grows up motherless. A close friend of Groves from childhood has spoken anonymously about the warning signs of Groves, who nicknamed her childhood friend Lauren White, Chucky, after a murdering doll she says was always quite strange. She said, "We used to hang out. Shay was quite strange. She was unique, the way she dressed, what she was into. She used to like Chucky dolls and was interested in them. When she was younger, she was different from what she is now. She was more girly, but she was never like a girly girl and she always stood out from the crowd. We'd all be in bright colors and she'd be the one in dark clothes, even from that age. She didn't wear what she wore now. She wasn't a goth, but she was always unique. She's always been a bit strange." According to the ex-friend, in recent years, Groves didn't socialize much and spent more time with Ms. White and Vicky Baytup, who reported her to the police after video calling her and showing her Mr. Fitzgerald's body. "She didn't used to go out very much. She used to stay in with Lauren and Vicky Baytup," she added. Speaking about Groves' friendship with White, she added, "Lauren would do whatever Shay wanted her to do. She was very manipulative. Lauren didn't have many friends, and Shay used to be the one there for her." Over the arduous course of proceedings, the tragic and twisted story of Groves' life began to emerge. In a post to her daughter prior to her starting primary school, Groves wrote of her pride that she had grown up to be a beautiful, independent girl with a whole lot of attitude, and promised to always be here to guide you. The doting mother of yesteryear cuts a decidedly different image now, sometime later bloated with tattoos and piercings, her face seemingly set to a permanent leering smirk in her police photos. Another woman who met Groves once at a Pop World nightclub through her friendship with Miss White and also wished to remain anonymous said, "Shay used to bully Lauren and make her do things. I've been out clubbing with her, and Shay was just a bit of a weirdo." Regarding her tattoos, she added, "It must have been 2 years ago she had the throat one done, but she didn't have the big line down her face. And she used to have a lip piercing, but not all those other ones. She did start to dress a bit gothy about 2 years ago as she was turning goth. Weirdo." And that's it for this video. We do not condone any such crimes and cannot fathom enough how messed up the mindset would be to commit something like this. As this story comes to an end, we hope you were able to gain insight into a ruthless and heartless murderer. Please click the like button and feel free to leave a comment on which part of the video made you realize life is short and to appreciate every opportunity you get. Hit the subscribe button down below to make sure you don't miss any uploads. Stay safe and happy.